especially in the creation process of any art form. And like you said, that encompasses a lot of things. You know, a lot of things that you really wouldn't consider art, you would consider maybe a job.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and in reality, it's something that takes creativity, you know, brain power, and as well, you know, kind of the guts to stand up in front of people like you were talking about earlier, and have your art judged by people. And you know, we're trying to promote that here at Lindenwood, and absolutely love that. So, what are you looking forward most? Like, what event today at the Humanities Showcase are you looking forward to the most?
I was actually looking forward to this part because I did work in radio, so it's interesting to see to me how in 2019 how radio broadcasts work, because back in my day, you know, we had to get like a horse and a dove, and there was just so much involved. But now, you know, you can do the remote broadcast so easily. So I was really intrigued at the idea of this remote broadcast here at the Dixon Overflow at the Lindenwood University in the Belleville campus. It's like, okay, let me see what these cats got going on. It's like, oh, okay, we got some headphones and a laptop. What? If you could, I don't know if you guys have ever seen a remote switchboard. It's massive. Like, when I did remote radio shows back in 2006, it was like this big ordeal. We needed a van, and we needed, you know, pieces of equipment and carts. And now it's like, I got my backpack. It's a U-Haul. Yes, you have to have a U-Haul to go and do a remote show. And it's like, oh no, let's just throw some speakers. Let me get my iPhone out. Boop, boop, boop. Next thing you know, I got a remote radio show. Like, it's impressive. It's intriguing. It's interesting. And I'm just mind blown by where technology has taken not only mass communication, but again, art in general. You know, just to be able to, my niece was drawing on her iPhone the other day, and I'm like, you can create a work of art from your phone. Like, this is incredible. It's all amazing. I'm happy to be in this space in this time.
Awesome, awesome. Again, Professor Hodges, thank you so much for your insightful answers, and also thank you for always being radio and camera ready. We appreciate it. And I'm sure, you know,
it's a gift.
Wish we all had it. All right, so our next segment is going to be our journalism law class. So we're just going to go ahead and get that set up real quick, and we will be right back.
You're welcome.
Good, thank you. You got a great radio voice, girl.
I have a face for radio.
That's what I told her.
She said I have a face for radio.
No, I was on radio for 15 years. I used to say, I am the best looking radio guy you have ever seen. I am so good looking on the radio. You got a great voice. I told Pilar, I'm like, well, she reminds me of me. She doesn't even need a PA.
No.
Discuss First Amendment.
My name's Scott.
Hey, Jennifer.
Nice to meet you.
Every time I'm like, yeah, Scott.
I know.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, he looks like a rock band leader. And then I saw you and I'm like, yes.
I'll take that. I'll take that old 80s rock band. I worked for ESPN for 15 years. I was a talk show. Fox Sports. I worked for the BBC over here.
It's you, Jonna, and Carl.
As a news reporter, so.
So you guys are just talking about what we discussed in class.
I know.
When it's appropriate for journalists to
The
accompany
King's
police.
English. I
All
got
over,
it.
I'm like, translator, please.
So what does blind mean? Oh, it means drunk. Okay, thank you.
I can do that.
I can do that, yeah.
How much time do they have before you're on dead air?
I'm sorry?
How much time do they have before you have dead
We
air?
got a song where you can stop it whenever they're ready.
No, I just want to make sure you're on dead air.
We're good. You guys have a seat. Jakey, are you in this class too?
Yeah,
You guys are part of this discussion?
Now it's only
All right, so I have
you
one.
might want to turn
I have two more headsets, and then if Kwanda's going to...
You know what? We're going to go ahead and get started.
Okay, and then we have
yeah, I
this too.
saw that.
So, no, for
Oh,
whoever else
okay.
comes.
All right.
Okay, but we don't have another set of
Okay, good.
headphones.
All right.
Wait.
So you guys don't have to shout. It's these four. You don't have to talk very loud.
Not at all.
Loud enough.
Because they can adjust you.
Yeah, but speak loud enough
So
so that
just
they can hear.
make sure that microphone is kind of right there. Okay, adjust it yourselves. You can talk.
CJ's going to take point, and he's going to kind of lead the discussion about search and seizure, when journalists can accompany police, when journalists can accompany police, when
So,
you guys know this stuff.
how are you, honey? Everything good? First Amendment discussion.
Just how it pertains to like say, but I would say
I have no idea.
I'm trying to like stay out.
Yeah, I didn't want to be direct blindsight.
Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry. Let me get out of the
First Amendment hate speech, search and seizure.
Well, not search and seizure in general, but just when police can go and go through, say, your cell phone, that's important to do that. The idea of having images of young people on your cell phones from when you were young. Remember, we talked about that now would be considered possession of, innocent pictures of children, even though they were given to you at the time. I don't think you are. That's why I changed it from that to just the idea of making sure you erase any kind of explicit imagery from your phone. But most important stuff to deal with police, I think, is pertinent today, and I think CJ police, things to deal with police. So whether you guys as journalists can accompany police, when police can designate a place, private property, they have that authority, all of that kind of stuff. So just get into the conversation so I can do in class. And there's no one here but before you just talking in class. Right? Just talk to each other. We're not here.
Is this supposed to last an hour and 15 minutes?
It doesn't have to. I mean, how much time do you have, Scott?
I promise you have more.
Scott, how much time do you have?
She's got the notebook.
Yeah, Clara.
I think they had
For the hour.
They want to play for an hour, but I don't care.
he's gonna say
Actually,
something
we're gonna play the songs.
I mean, they get talking, it's certainly the kind of
Let them
conversation.
go because we can always pivot back.
If somebody,
We just need
somebody
to
starts
move
talking
on.
too much, I'm gonna try to pass it to somebody else. Like last time, you know what I thought about that.
Okay, just will be done by 10:30.
And she starts writing.
One at a time, take their time.
Yep.
Have them take their time. And if they need a break, take a commercial, something like that. Probably avoid playing music because you guys are having a discussion. So if you got to play a couple commercials, give a break, come back. It's probably a good way to go in.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay? I'm gonna leave it to you two then. You two handle this. Stop saying awesome, CJ.
Yeah, you say awesome.
Right on.
You say awesome, like you said awesome like 47 times. I love you.
Awesome.
It's awesome that you love the word awesome, but don't say awesome.
Scott, where is the...
Hey, Miss Wanda, you're okay. Pull a chair in. Pull a chair in. I'm gonna steal this chair off the end.
Did you get my frantic emails on it?
Miss Wanda, you're gonna be down here.
Wait, why don't you just give her this? And
We're still gonna let CJ take point,
What?
sort of lead the
If you want,
discussion.
and then if you want to be, slide that over to Jake. Okay, which means you can always turn that on if you want to get into the discussion. It'll run off this way.
Okay, I'll just run this. You want to go after this song, right?
Miss Wanda, you're right here. There's your answer.
1 minute.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, even though I'm asking probably till somebody's thinking of a question, don't be afraid to, just kind of jump in with the question. I'm going to start, I'm going to introduce myself and kind of what we're doing and whatnot. And then we're going to go around and we're going to
They got
introduce
music playing right
ourselves,
now at the station, and the station
major,
music will not
sport, first day of class.
One more. It doesn't come back.
No,
So you either have to play music off of the phone or a computer,
Don't be shy about peppering me.
or we're kind of dead in here. So once they get started, everyone
You know, I did talk about that on the radio.
should be good.
Like I did bring up something. No, not that.
Just kind of wrap our stuff up.
See, this is...
Should I get the,
Or I'm sorry.
I think I'm gonna.
Oh, okay.
And that should be plenty of time for them to have.
So the AKA.
Yeah, let's get started, guys, because everyone's
There's,
here. They probably want to hear
10
it.
seconds.
All right. If you'd like, sure. Just keep it down there for a minute. It's okay.
Professor Edgren is supposed to be here. He is detained, but he will be here later. So he just asked me to welcome everybody. If you look around the walls, you'll see a lot of artwork from some of our students. The Humanities showcases the best and the brightest of our Humanities department, which is several departments. We also are going to have some food from the history department here for you guys to taste a little later. Dr. Gangloff can fill you in on what some of that is, but it's really delicious, yummy, interesting delights from back in time before we had all of the modern microwave devices that we can pop things in and make stuff quicker. So we also have lining the walls artwork from this semester and prior semesters. We've got our comm law students, they're about to talk about issues pertaining to journalism and the law. So just have a good time. This event goes on all day until about 7, and we'll have different events. We'll have little short plays, we'll have some videos. So at all times, just feel free to walk around and kind of, take a look at some of the work that your classmates have made and some of you have made, and I hope you enjoy yourselves. Thank you. Have fun.
Hello, hello. How are we doing today? Everybody's having a fantastic day on this beautiful Thursday morning. I am here with some of my fellow classmates from our journalism law class. We're here today to discuss kind of, in depth, a couple different topics that we've been talking about a lot this year. My name's CJ. I'm a sophomore here. I'm in the fraternity. That's pretty much my life. So I'm going to go ahead and let the girls here introduce themselves real quick.
I'm Clara. I play volleyball here. I'm a sophomore / junior, and I'm part of student government, media club, and yeah, I think that's all.
Hey, I'm Jonna, and I'm a sophomore here. I play volleyball and lacrosse here at Belleville, and I'm also one of the student workers, so I help set up this great humanities showcase that we have today.
That's nice. Well, I'm Wanda. I'm a junior, and I'm in hyperlinks. Have fun there. And so, this sports, but not the main focus for me.
Awesome. So now that we're all introduced, can you guys just go around real quick and tell us just your favorite part about class real quick?
About this class?
About journalism law, yeah.
I guess I like learning about useful stuff, maybe stuff we deal in our everyday lives, I guess. Like things that could be useful for us that we can use outside of class, not only inside for tests, but actually in real life.
Alright, my favorite thing is I feel like you get an aspect of law which is not common. I guess normally you hear about, where you're learning design aspects, but to learn the law side of it and getting to know, what we can do and what's, we should avoid is just very helpful.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you. The nice thing about pub law is that it's very changing because the laws are evolving as we are in class. So we're at the forefront of it so that when we graduate, we know all of this like back of our hand.
I think you guys pretty much covered the whole class. I think you guys could probably take Professor Davis's spot. Big thanks to Professor Davis, by the way, for bearing with us through this class and coaching us up on pretty hard subjects that for some people they're pretty hard to grasp. So we're going to go ahead and just dive into some of the material that we've been covering all year. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is something that Ms. Davis repeats over and over again in class, and that's about the First Amendment. And what does that cover? And in the terms of law and journalism, what is protected and what is not? And a big topic about that in today's media is hate speech. So can anybody tell me, is hate speech covered by the First Amendment?
Yeah, it is. That's weird, may sound, I guess. It's not a legal term though, but yeah, you can, Supreme Court said it's legal, it's covered by First Amendment, so it's
but it doesn't protect you from the repercussions. So if someone retaliates as a result, obviously you have to deal with that. But you're allowed to express your opinion, which is the whole point of the First Amendment and why we protect it so much.
Yeah, the example that Ms. Davis always gives in class is you can't, shout fire in a crowded movie theater and not expect those repercussions to come back to you. And that covers a lot of stuff. Hate speech. You can say it, but that doesn't mean your boss can't fire you and stuff like that. So I think we did a pretty good job of covering that. So when can police go through your cell phone? Is another question that we've covered a lot.
So most people, this has been debated in the Supreme Courts, and the police actually have to have a warrant in order to search your phone, because your phone it's not like other things that you would find on a person, like a wallet, or your phone has so much information on it. It's almost like a microcomputer, and there's just so much there that they have to have a warrant to search it.
Yeah, it's like searching your own, the level of privacy that you expect for your phone. Like, the things that you do there, a good 50% of it you don't want anyone else seeing unless you willingly show them.
So you guys mentioned this issue of privacy. Can you dive a little bit deeper into that? What that means as a legal term?
So like a lot of people have trouble knowing the difference between like secrecy and privacy. And a good example is always like, I have a lot of professors that told me that it's like when you go to someone's house and then you go to the restroom and then the owner of the house tells you like, no, you can't close the door. We don't close the door here. Like, and you're like, what? Like, you need to close the door. This is the restroom. Like, it makes no sense. So, like, you expect, like, this person is nice to be honest, so you expect to be able to close the door and everything, but it's not because you're hiding something. It's not like, in secrecy, you usually, like, hide something, you keep it a secret, as the name says, but with privacy, you just expect that, like, some boundaries, like, people are not gonna invade your personal space, even though you're not hiding anything.
That was a really, really good comparison. Last thing we're going to talk about before we go on to a really, really short commercial break is the question of when can you video the police?
So I think one of the biggest things is like distance. So you have the right, I mean, you can film the police, you have the freedom of the press, but the police can also, if you're interfering with their investigation or whatever they're trying to do, they can also ask you to stop and surrender your film or footage.
But it's very rare that filming them arresting someone is as a civilian, not as a newsgatherer. It's very rare that it's actually interfering with whatever traffic stop or arrest they're making, unless they're doing something wrong or slightly, secretive. In that case, it makes you question why they want you to stop.
Right, and that's where the distance comes in. Because if you're 20 feet away, I mean, what are you going to be interfering with?
What am I hurting? Plus, my phone's good enough as I can zoom. Okay, I can still see everything from the set distance away. So what's the problem?
Well, awesome. You guys did a really, really good job of covering everything. So we're gonna take it to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
You all learn everything? Can the police look at your phone?
It's not. No, I thought it was he unplugged it. So I don't know why it's on.
How much time did you need?
As long as
Is it a 4 minute?
you need.
Yeah. So I would go into, you guys want to have some notes, just so you know what we're talking about. I would go into that. The rap thing is a big thing. A lot of rappers rap. Bear in mind, rappers follow the expression. Lots of people sing about lots of things that aren't real. So does anybody know which case it was? We talked about something in New Jersey. Yeah. But just this idea, you don't have to do that specific because they won't know who that is. So that's fine. Because they find it. Just this idea that just because you recognize something, you would have to show some access to the body, that you somehow have information about the bodies in order for, something only you can do. The idea that you rap about is not sufficient to charging these people. But also in journalism,
and then as a backup topic, it would be a good idea to talk about.
Well, I was going to say also just this idea of slander and liars. I'm talking about on the radio. And what's the difference in there's files on paper and saying speech, but that has all changed. This can go all over the world. We used to have that. It used to just be me telling lies. Or me telling this room. But now it's you telling that box, and that box is the right to potentially go on YouTube. And so this idea of slander and lies, where those lines are drawn. Also this idea of publicity, when you have the right to publicity. You have a right as an entertainer to your own entertainment. but Jacob doesn't. He has a right to privacy. He has an expectation. When CJ becomes our senator of Illinois, he won't have that kind of immunity. So enjoy it while it lasts. Do you feel comfortable?
I'm gonna go ask, like, I'm gonna go see if I can. I'm gonna go see if I can find
They can raise the
a doctor or something. That would give them to.
because you're making
Yeah,
great.
it's like he's great. Yeah, he's great to it. I'm gonna go see if I can find something. You're good? Yeah, it's already on me. Are you here?
I've only been using YouTube cameras here.
All right, we are back. Hope you guys enjoyed that short commercial break as well. There was some music thrown in there. So we're back again. Kind of the goal of today's radio show is to discuss different, legal issues that we've brought up in our journalism law class that pertain to a lot of us. May not pertain to you right now, but it's some useful information that you can get under your belt for the future. So first thing that we're going to talk about for this section is going to be talking about rap lyrics and the legality of what kind of weight rap lyrics hold in the court of law.
Yeah, so a lot of the times there will be cases in rap lyrics, there's some interesting things in there, and they might be talking about how they committed some crime or something, and it's so can the court actually be like, oh well, can they prosecute them for these crimes? And they've actually determined, well, they can't just do it based off of their lyrics unless they find something to connect them to a specific crime, such as like a nexus to the crime. So
can you explain a little bit what a nexus is for those who don't know what it is?
So yeah, so it's kind of like they have to have like specifics. So like if they were to say, there you can find this aspect of like a crime, like in this specific spot, you can find it under the cherry tree, and they rap about, there's a body under the cherry tree. That's a nexus to the crime. It's something to connect the lyrics to something that they can actually prove.
Gotcha. And then also, this happens, a lot in today's media. We saw with rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine recently, and all the things that's going about him. And it even happened, back whenever, we were younger with rappers like Bobby Shmurda, where different rap lyrics tied them to, court cases, and then, they use that kind of as a lead, and then they get enough evidence, after using that as a lead. So that is like that's something that's still in discussion. Do you guys have any specific examples like that we talked about in class?
I remember there was a case in New Jersey that the Supreme Court said that the evidence was not related, even though the lyrics said something like offensive or like violent. There was no nexus to the crime, like we said. So if there's no nexus, it's just like creative license. You can basically sing or write about anything you want. That's
And so with like this genre, you have to be able to like prove that you have a connection to the people that you are trying to connect with. And so yeah, that's where they do daily life is they have to, or all the gas station is like to say they will rap about that. That's what they will use in their lyrics because that's the life they portray. So even if they never done anything illegal before than jaywalking in their life, that's what they're going to talk about. And so you can't use lyrics that may or may not have anything to do with the crime. It's like, oh, this kind of lines up. They can't start with the lyrics. They have to have some other evidence, and the lyrics are able to add an into it to support that, like, hey, no, he actually did this.
Yeah. And then one of the other things that, talking about that New Jersey case, they also, one of the things they tried to do was prove that his character based off of his rap lyrics, and the court determined, well, no, this is his, like you said, creative license. Like, you can't just judge his character because he's saying, oh, I'm going to go out and do these things. They can't say, oh, he's a bad person. Like, they couldn't use that in the court of law.
Yeah, and I think another interesting topic, that's kind of branching off of that, is, what is legally defined as art? We talked about that a little bit in class and covered that. Can anybody touch on that subject?
Well, we don't really necessarily define art, but we define things that are obscene and therefore are not art.
Okay.
So in order to be obscene, it has to pass through these different tests. And so there's like extremely offensive and lacking any sort of value to society. So if it's artistic, scientific, historical, any type of value in that way. And it is, can you help me out, John? For the second part of the test.
No, this is the part I got it wrong. I know there's a term, I just can't bring it to mind right now.
But it basically all revolves around having nothing to do with anything creative or anything that can be of value and being extremely offensive and aggressive. Oh, I remember now. It's an incite lust or anything sexual. That's what it is. So if it does all of those three things, it's obscene and therefore cannot be considered art of any sort.
Awesome. I think you guys, really covered that very thoroughly, and I appreciate the insight that you guys, brought to the table with that. So now we're going to go ahead and move on and kind of touch on the topic that pertains to what we're doing right now, and that's, we're on the radio, we're on air. People can go to our website and click on us right now from anywhere in the world and listen to that. So that topic that we're going to be talking about is your libel. What the difference is with that, and kind of examples of both. Clara, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. There are both types of defamation. One is more related to print, and the other one is more related to radio. Yeah, maybe spoken word broadcast of this kind, no print. But
yeah, so recently, back in the day, it used to be pretty clear this was written and it could be distributed all over. But something you said necessarily wouldn't be able to go as far. Like maybe if I said this to Clara, or I said it to a classroom, it wouldn't go much farther except, by word of speech. But if it was something I wrote and it was published, then that would carry a lot more weight. People would be more likely to believe it. So it was considered a little bit more. It was a little harder to, disprove.
So yeah, we're kind of slipping into a gray area, with technology coming to play a part. And something we talk about in class is how, our law is ever changing, and the law trying to, keep up with evolving technology. And stuff like that, and slander and libel plays a huge part in that. And you guys did, again, awesome job. You guys are killing it. Covering all the bases on all this stuff. So, last topic we're going to talk about before we go to another quick commercial break is going to be the role of shield law in journalism.
So, for those that don't know, shield law is basically the overarching name for the laws that protect journalists from having to testify in front of a supreme, grand jury, that's what it's called. And so it's basically the idea of, I have this source, or I got this information, and I'm not going to tell you, and it's the specifics of why they can say they won't tell you, or when they will be forced to testify. So in Illinois specifically, the shield law involves either in terms of endangerment. So if revealing the source will either endanger the journalist or the person that gave information of, oh, hey, the body's buried under the cherry tree, like you were saying. Like, only certain people have the information. So if they reveal that, oh, they're automatically more than likely going to be killed for spilling the beans. And then in terms of working for an actual news source. So if you are just a blogger and you're just kind of, you've stumbled upon this story, you're going to be forced to testify. You have to share your sources. Whereas if you work for the B&B or anything, you are working for a legitimate news source. So you're more protected in that sense.
Yeah, and also this idea that they can use the shield laws if all the other resources in the case fail, or if they don't have any kind of information to rely on, and that displaying that source is the only way to advance on the case, I guess, to perhaps find some answers. That's the only time that they have to display the sources. They have to reveal who they are, even though it may harm them or the sources.
Yeah, and so I think another important thing to note is shield laws, if you go to a different state, they're going to be different. So it's really important to, look up specific laws for each state, because it's going to vary. Some are major variances and some are just minor.
Well, again, ladies, really, really good job of covering the topic. We're gonna go to a really quick commercial break again, and we will be right back.
No. Don't know what else to talk about. So why don't we need to run side by Professor. What do you think about usually we have to how long do we have again? 10, 15? 10:45. Okay, so we can stop around like 10:30. So I think something that would take up a lot of time that would be good is if we went around and we talked about our topics of our papers that we've been writing, because we've all done research on that like that. Are you guys cool with that?
With what?
Talking about your papers, stuff like that. So we'll like ask each other.
You don't have to. It can be personal for me.
Yeah.
You guys certainly do not have to. Like people talk about
I can talk about mine.
John, I totally understand if you don't want
John, this is pretty controversial.
No, I can understand.
I might. I will see. We'll see.
They feel like it. That's what radio is about.
Why not?
You said something amazing in class the other day. We were talking about races. What? I don't know. I don't know. That is, yeah. That's everything. That's,
Here we go.
All right, Lindenwood, we are back. So the next kind of round of discussion that we're going to have, each of us are going to kind of go around and introduce our papers that we've been writing. In journalism law, we work almost the whole year on researching and developing a paper that is making a claim or a stance on something to do with law and journalism tied together. So why don't we start with Clara?
So my paper talks about cyberbullying and its effects on teenagers, especially suicide rates. And I came across a lot of interesting data during my research that actually suicides are the second leading cause of teenagers death in the world. The first one is either accidents or injuries. And I heard and I looked into some really interesting articles and journals talking about the more time you spend on the internet, the worse you feel. So sometimes people feel really, really bad after going through their Instagram account, either because they think the people they follow are like somehow different from them, and they want it to be like that, and they can't date for some reason. But yeah, I thought it was it's a pertinent thing because depression and suicide is a real thing nowadays. Maybe our parents or grandparents didn't want to talk about it. Some people believe it doesn't exist, but it's like scientifically proved, and I think it's really good that we have enough material to search on and to talk about that.
Awesome. So, like, what's one of the court cases that you brought into your paper?
There was one in New Jersey. It was the state of New Jersey v. Ravi, I guess. It was about the defendant studying a university in New York. I can't remember which one, but his roommate was gay, and then the guy tried to record him having relations with other people and then share to other students of the university. So the guy that was recorded ended up killing himself a week later because he couldn't handle the pressure of like going out and having everyone like talking about him and pointing at him. So and they discovered after like going through his social media accounts and everything that between the day that the first video came out until the day he killed himself, he literally went through the other guy's Twitter account like 6 to 9 times in like 1 week. So it was something that he was really obsessed about, and it made him sad and angry, I guess. So it's a sad thing to say.
Your topic's definitely a super interesting topic as well. For some people, maybe a touching topic, but it's definitely something that needs to be discussed. Like you said, in today, as it's here. We need to deal with it. It's something that's up front in society, like you said. Your big statistic was second like leading cause of death, and that's really really important. Ladies, do you have any questions for Clara about her paper?
Was there any, research that you found was very interesting or something? You're like, well, I never would have assumed that while you were looking at this topic.
I guess this one of the more time you spend on the internet, the lonely, you feel like lonely and everything because you think the opposite. You think you're connected with a lot of people in your social media accounts, but that's some people change a lot, like they replace their real social interactions like in real life for the ones in social media, and can be really harmful, especially if they're being like bullied, or if they feel they don't have anyone to talk to, if they don't have any resources or anything. And I think that made me kind of scared. So
I'm just really looking forward to seeing what else you find, because it's really interesting. Okay, so my topic, I took sort of a different approach. I was focusing on how social movements and social media interact, because like we all know Black Lives Matter and Me Too are very prominent, very obvious movements that are occurring right now, and they're ebbing and flowing on the momentum they have and making the change based on what they believe. And so I want to examine the role of social media and how they reach their followers and gain support. And overall, I've discovered that it's pretty positive in general, but the main issue that I'm trying to figure out how they are counteracting is the idea of activism versus slacktivism type thing. So for those of you who don't know what slacktivism is, it's the idea that I can like something on Instagram or I can tweet something, but I'll never go out and do something. I will never be the one to go hand out pamphlets or vote for something to be changed and actually change, versus just, oh look, you have 2 billion followers, whatever. So overall, I'm just examining how it's changed over the years, given the growth of different movements, especially with Me Too, how it was originally a different movement of support for survivors, versus now it's a shared narrative type of movement. And so with the court cases that are all coming for large main brand stars being persecuted for actions they took in the past as a result or connected to the Me Too movement, I found that very prevalent to today, because it's something we're experiencing real time. So it's kind of hard finding research, but it's a really interesting topic overall to me.
Yeah, it sounds really, really interesting. Ladies, any questions for her?
No, I think it's super interesting how, I can give an example. On Facebook, there are a lot of posts and a lot of polemic and controversial topics that I may like or may react against, but I would never go out and actually do something about it. It's just because I think to go out and really, like I said, handle all pamphlets and stuff like that, it has to be really important to you. So maybe you support the cause, but you're not, it's not your place to do something sometimes. So it's kind of hard, but I think it's really interesting how you came up to this topic. Most of us wouldn't think about that.
So they're like, oh, don't feel like it's not your place. That's the general narrative that they seem to present. Don't feel like it's not your place to go out. If you don't believe it, okay, share it. Maybe find someone else that you know that will be willing to go out and take action. Because it's all about action that leads to change, and legal change is how we change the world.
Awesome. Again, awesome topic. Would have never thought of that. Cannot wait to see the more research that you find, and what you bring to the table whenever discussing in class and stuff like that. So my paper is on whether or not, or also legally holding Donald Trump accountable for incitement and some of his speeches and also tweets. It's a bit of a more controversial topic. A lot of stuff has come out in the past couple days actually about Representative Omar. For those of you who keep up, today, there's a lot of controversy going around with this topic. So it's a super fun topic to kind of delve into and figure out whether or not Donald Trump can be legally held accountable for incitement of violence. The research is hard because it's so slanted one way or the other. It's really hard to find unbiased, what is the legality, because each side is gonna lean on it and whatnot. But still doing more research because it seems like every day something new comes out about Representative Omar, who, if you guys don't know, she's a huge American Muslim activist. She is she's a congresswoman, and she's a Muslim, and she was giving a speech to a program called CARE, which is a Muslim support group for Muslim Americans, and she said something to the effect of that Americans should push past and move past 9/11 and move past all the stereotypes that we developed, and social media kind of exploded. Donald Trump hopped in, and after Donald Trump hopped in, he said 2 words, and the amount of death threats that Representative Omar received almost doubled overnight, causing her to increase her security, to make sure that she's okay, and there's discussion of her thinking about suing Donald Trump for the price of the security that he caused by that tweet. Who should be held accountable, and then also what is the president allowed and not allowed to do. So there's a lot of questions that are being answered in this topic, and like you answer one question, it seems like 2 more pop up. So I'm still searching for those answers.
I think the biggest benefit I can see of that is that there is so much information, so even though you have to sort through it all to find, oh, well, this isn't clearly slanted, this isn't biased, but at least you have the multiple options, so you can find the middle ground, even if other people aren't.
Yeah, it's kind of like you have to sift through it and kind of meet in the middle, if you will. Kind of, this side says one thing, this side says the other thing, so it's probably a synthesis of both. Meet right in the middle. It's just finding something I can cite that says that is the problem.
Yeah, I completely understand. Like, I'm doing an editorial about, I don't know if you guys know anything about the president of Brazil, but it's kind of like Trump. When he doesn't like something, he calls fake news. And I think this is a really hard topic because it seems like every article, every news I came across, in the first paragraph, I can see if the person supports or goes against either Trump or our president. So it's really, really hard to find someone that is not biased by their own beliefs, not only by legal issues or anything like that. So I wish you the best of luck to find some good sources, because I know they're really hard to find.
And there's a couple, sources that I found that are just concrete, just concrete evidence, videos of Donald Trump at rallies and whatnot. That was a really important part of establishing that baseline of, things that he said was using videos from his rallies during that 2016 campaign. Because, never before have we seen, in the media, a president use, Twitter and as well, just kind of the attitude of, getting rid of political correctness, if you will. That was a big thing on his part, and I know everybody has, their opinions about that. And the word that I put to the entire topic is polarizing, because it seems like, people flood to each side, and I think as a result of that, it's really hard to find, that good, solid, just unbiased information. And I've never really had that problem before, with the topic, whether that have been an editorial or a paper or anything like that. Because not only are we talking about what is the president allowed and not allowed to do, but we're talking about, the president legally being charged and being impeached. Like, it's a big deal. So it's not something to, tread on lightly. It's something I'm passionate about. It's something that a lot of other people are, very obviously passionate about, just by doing a quick scan across the internet, just, searching through stuff. So, any more questions?
Have you found any crossover between the idea of hate speech and that's what he's doing versus the idea of like actual incitement. Is that the main argument?
Yeah, and that's something that I bring up at the very beginning of my paper, is that, you know, Donald Trump is allowed to post his ideas on his Twitter just like any other American. You know, he still has the same rights as us. But, you know, at the same time, it comes to a point whenever, you know, he's on the stage encouraging, you know, violence. You know, and he has, you know, a history of kind of not only encouraging but also endorsing. And there's several sources that I've found that very blatantly, you know, like point in that direction. But you know, it's very, very blatant in that point. But then whenever we move to Representative Omar, that's whenever we, you know, kind of find our gray area, our murky area of, you know, is this legal or not? And you know, it's kind of hard because we're in a senior level law class. We're not law experts. You know, we have to rely on other people's information because we, you know, are not experts in the field. We're trying to be. You know, we're working towards that.
Okay, so now I think we're going to talk about my paper. So mine is a very controversial paper, and it's something that's been like debated for the past decade, about 50 years. So my topic is talking about overturning Roe versus Wade, which is one of the landmark cases that the Supreme Court ruled on. And so normally when we have our mass comm law class, normally my opinion is the minority opinion. For those who don't know, I'm a very conservative Christian, and oftentimes what I may see as obscene, or some of the topics we'll talk about in class, I won't agree with everyone else, but one of the points I made in one of our other classes was I may not agree with a lot of my classmates, but at the same time I still respect their opinion. I know I don't expect other people to conform to my beliefs. But so with my paper, it talks about overturning Roe v. Wade, and one of the main cases that it makes is talking about fetal homicide laws. For those who don't know, there are laws in certain states that give fetal pregnant women, if someone were, there's a specific case in, I believe it was Phillips versus Alabama, where a man killed his wife who was pregnant at the time, and it was still a fetus, like very, very young. If she were to have an abortion, it wouldn't have been considered illegal at the time, but the man was convicted of double murder. So there's kind of like this contradiction in the law there, where either these fetal homicide laws need to be changed or the abortion laws need to be changed, because they kind of contradict each other. And then, so that's one of my main points in this paper. And then one of my other points is, it talks about the definition of death. So in order to be considered dead, I don't remember the definition exactly, but it had to do with like cessation of both brain function and heart function. And so when you look at a fetus, they have, at early stages, they have a heartbeat and they have lungs. They're not functional, but they are there. So it talks about how the definition of death, if we were to change that and make it a standard, so if you're not dead, you're alive. So if you look at life based on that definition, then a fetus would and should be considered a life. So that's my topic for my paper. It's like I said, it's a very controversial one. A lot of different opinions there, and it's very hard to look at it from a science perspective and a law perspective and take out the belief side, because I feel like this is just such a topic that's so ingrained in beliefs that like it's very hard to separate those aspects.
You know, I'd like, actually, I'd like, you know, really admire you for, you know, taking that stance and, you know, being able to, you know, stand out and, you know, say what you believe, even though it is the minority opinion. I mean, at the end of the day, like, even though your opinion may differ from mine or anybody else's, it's not wrong, it's just different. And, you know, but the law, but that's where we draw the line, is like the law is like, you know, that's where we're deciding, and it's super cool, you know, to discuss these, you know, different topics, especially something, you know, as standard and as concrete as Roe v. Wade. So, you know, have you found anything, you know, like extraordinary or, you know, something you didn't expect to find in your research?
Yeah, I actually found that like a third of the media actually personifies the fetus, and I just know from personal experience, most of what I've read, you know, they wouldn't consider it a child, but like to see that there was actually like a third of the media that did, I thought that was very interesting and just wasn't something I expected.
Yeah, I gotcha. So, you know, you were talking about, you know, the difference between, you know, like trying to balance law, science, and belief and stuff like that. You know, what do you think? What do you think the role of belief is whenever it comes to law?
Well, I mean, like you said, if you ask every different person, will probably have a different answer to this.
What's your
in my opinion, like they really can't be completely separated. Like they're always going to be interconnected. I mean, this is also another controversial thing, but like the Constitution is like one nation, or like the Pledge of Allegiance is like one nation under God. Like it's in our Constitution. There's a set of beliefs that was behind it when everything was written and brought out. So it's kind of hard to separate the two. But I think that just talks about like all the topics we talked about in general. It talks about, you know, trying to decide, okay, what is best for the people as a whole, and trying to develop laws based on that. Like you said, laws are constantly changing, and I think the science and beliefs and political values all have like a huge role in why it's constantly changing.
No, I completely agree with you. You know, I don't think it's ever possible to ever separate, you know, your beliefs from, you know, your opinions. And that plays a role whenever you have beliefs, and then also, you know, the lack thereof. And, you know, personal experiences, as we've discussed in class, you know, play a huge role in that. Do you ladies have any questions for John about the paper?
I think it's interesting how she like reached this topic in a different way. Because what most countries in South America, many countries in like Asia discuss, and mainly in South America, Brazil, Argentina, they discuss like this thing about thinking about not only the baby but the women, and thinking about like sometimes, so back in South America there was I believe like 2 years ago, a lot of babies were being born with like some kind of brain dysfunction, I guess. I don't know the scientific name, but it was something that you could see before giving birth. So there was this discussion of like whether you could have an abortion or not if you knew the baby wouldn't have like some kind of like, I wouldn't say dysfunction, it was just like the brain wasn't developed. It wasn't like as it should be, I guess. It has nothing to do with like an autism or anything like that, but it was really something that it could harm the baby and the mom. So there was this huge discussion about whether you would be able to like have an abortion or not. And then even nowadays they couldn't reach a common sense of yes they can or no they cannot. So I think there is always be someone to say yes, and there is always be someone to say no.
I think for both, like seeing the perspective of different countries, I feel like that really cements the fact that we will never fully agree on topics like this because it's so intertwined with just how we're raised, not even necessarily if it's a religious belief, just, oh, we're raised to believe this, this is something that we know to be true on such a deep level, and especially as a female, if it impacts you, like personally into your body type thing, like that's a whole nother layer to whether or not you believe yay or nay type thing. But I just think I don't know, it's a very interesting concept to consider, especially when you think about how hazy the laws are with the fetal homicide thing. I feel like that's very, as you said, contradictory, but that's also questionable. Because if he's going to be, the case you mentioned, he's going to be charged with double murder, well then, how are you going to treat every case coming after that? Are you, like, where are the standards alive? So personally, I would just say, okay, maybe this fetal homicide thing should kind of fade away. I don't think he should have been charged with double murder, especially if she would have been able to get an abortion and it would have been perfectly fine because it's beyond the certain day where abortion is allowed. I feel like that's where the legal system failed him, like specifically overall. Right, yeah.
Really, really good discussion on that. And again, John, thank you so much for bringing up your paper. I think out of all the topics, I think it's probably the most controversial topic. And I'm sure that you'd be willing, like, we will discuss more in class about it. And regardless of your beliefs, it is a super, super, super interesting topic. And I think it's been debated for God knows how long, and it's going to be debated for years to come. It's not something that is going to be decided anytime soon. I think at least in terms of overturning Roe versus Wade. So we're going to go to a really, really quick music break. So we'll be right back.
Nice music.
Oh, you scared the crap out of me. I was like, oh God. I was like, it was terrible. I was just saying. So it's fine. It's fine. I just want to make sure you're not saying anything that's not accurate. So. Scared me. I was really after it. I was like, oh gosh, we're doing that. That's a hard
pertains to journalism, and also how it affects our lives. Earlier we talked a little bit about our research papers that we've been working on for the past what seems like 5 years. But we're very close to the very end of the semester, so let's go ahead and wrap up this discussion with a couple different topics. John, we were talking about one earlier that you wanted to bring up.
Oh yeah, so I was talking about how when we talk about all these laws and obscenity and like all these different aspects, but also when interesting facts that when it pertains to children, it's a little bit different. So what might be okay to put on TV for adults is going to be drastically different than what you're going to be putting on a child's TV show. And that pertains to advertisements, content, like it's just, there's so many, the laws just changed because we want to protect the children.
Yeah, I mean, a couple examples like we talked about in class is like the difference between something you're going to hear on Nickelodeon and you know what you're going to hear on SNL. You know, late night TV. I believe past 10 o'clock. Is that right? Past 10 o'clock. You know, it laxes up a little bit. The FCC has definitely loosened its grip on what is obscenity and what not as we move further. But there still are issues. So another thing that we wanted to talk about was something that we talked about the very first day of class, and that is to do with obscenity and also possession of obscenity whenever it comes to children. This is a really interesting topic that we're dealing with right now because 20 years ago this wasn't an issue because cell phones didn't exist, Snapchat didn't exist, but here we are now, and there's different cases and stuff like that. So does anyone want to kind of talk about what that means? And
So just starting off with a warning. If you have anything on your phone from when you were in high school, you might be concerned about keeping it because if you, even if you receive images while you were in high school, while you were 14, it was still okay. And a 14-year-old being in possession of explicit child imagery is still legal. So we all know this, like as adults, we know that you cannot have that possession is legal, but once we kind of forget that we have it, we kind of forget that it's stored in our Facebook Messenger or whatever, how long ago we were 14. We don't remember things we did when we were 16 or 2 days ago. So having the knowledge of, oh, hey, I kind of still have that picture. Maybe I should get rid of that. So just think about that if you have anything on your phone or, well, I guess Instagram or Snapchat. You might want to delete that. So just a thought. Still could be persecuted for it, even though you received it when you were a minor. You're now an adult and you're expected to behave and know the laws that apply to you as an adult.
yeah, one of the topics or points of that Professor Davis was always talking about was how the law is very strict when it comes to children. It's no nonsense. You don't mess around. There's not a lot of leniency there. So make sure you clean up your stuff. You know what to do. You know what we're talking about. So we're going to go ahead and move on real quick. We're going to go ahead and give a headset to Professor Davis here, our professor. Good?
Pretty good.
Awesome.
Good? All right.
All right, sweet. So, Professor Davis, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What do you teach?
I'm Professor Davis, and I teach common law. And I teach a lot of things here, but the common law class affords us an opportunity to really delve into some things that you guys are probably dealing with in real life on a daily basis. So I think it's a really great addition to the comm program.
Yeah, I definitely think it's on the higher end of the most challenging courses that we have. But also, really good job of, getting us to understand all the topics and stuff like that. Always answering our questions.
Thank you, CG.
I
have
being
not
able-
graded your paper yet. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
We're trying to get some extra brownie points here. But, so, what if there's one thing that every student in the class could take away from journalism law? What would it be?
Oh boy, one thing. I think there's this misnomer that somehow journalism is in its sort of own realm. And for those of you who've taken my journalism class, you know I talk a lot about the law in those classes as well, because they have a lot in common. One of the big takeaways that I give to all of you guys is always trying to be aware of the biases. Because when you're working in journalism, you're working law, you're working in comm, you're responsible for a message. And if your message is tainted by bias, you have a very unfair advantage to influence people negatively. That is imperative that you become aware of those biases and try to get around them. And then even just understanding that we all have them, but trying to find them and correct them so that they are not infused into what you do. That's probably one of the biggest things that I tell you guys all the time. The other thing is this idea of sort of everybody knows XYZ. No, everybody doesn't know XYZ, and you guys just said that just now. You guys just illustrated that different people have different perspectives, and that we want to base our opinions in fact, and not in rumor, and not in innuendo, but in things that we can research and prove.
Awesome. So even though, you know, sometimes we're all sleepy, it seems like we're half asleep at 9:30 in the morning when we stumble in.
Late hours, 9:30.
Do you have maybe like a favorite memory with our law class?
Oh my goodness, a lot. I have a lot. I mean, this is one of them. You guys have done so well. I'm just so proud of you. But I think it was probably that first day when we talked about this idea of imagery on your phones, and I kind of saw some eyes bug out a little bit, like, whoops. We don't, you know, my generation didn't have this issue, like CJ pointed out, it just didn't exist. But this idea of thinking that you have to sort of police your younger self now, you are all adults now, and so the presumption is that you are no longer given a benefit of the doubt. A lot of parents say that to their kids all the time. Teachers tell kids that when they're younger. When you turn 18, they really do. It's a switch goes on, and the rules do change. And so you have that picture of, you know, the high school sweetheart on your phone, but you forgot about it because you've had several high school sweethearts since then. And so, you know, it seemed forever then, but you forgot all about it. But the police won't forget about it when they see it on your phone. And we talked about, you guys talked very well about when police can search your phone, because they can't just search your phone. But if for some reason they get a warrant or have, you know, just reason to search your phone or your computer, or like you said, your Snap face or whatever you guys your face. You know, things are there, and you have to be aware of that, protect yourselves. And one of the beauties of journalism and law is that they both provide those protections for you, that they both intrinsically provide to protect the American public, and that's what they're there for.
Awesome. Anything else you want to say to any of the listeners tonight? This morning?
You haven't been on that long, CJ. It's not night yet. It's a little cloudy. It's dark and overcast, but I would like to say if anybody could do something about the weather, that would be great. Everybody knows how to fix that. Just, you know, you guys be safe. Have a good summer. And remember that all of this stuff is momentary. None of it is forever. It's just a moment in time. Also, remember what I always tell you guys in class.
I know I have Facebook.
You may think you have nothing in common, but you are all at the exact same place at the exact same time in history. And that is enormous. That is a huge thing to have in common. So just look forward to sitting here now talking are from different places, and yet you have huge commonalities. It's important for us to remember this day and age, all the things that we have in common. And study for your finals.
I'm sure we all will. You know, huge thanks to you guys for coming in and, you know, taking the initiative to hop on the radio. I know for some of you it was the first time. You guys did awesome. You know.
Yeah, first time.
First time.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you guys did awesome, and you know, we covered all the topics that I think, you know, we wanted to cover, and then some. So I guess I will see you guys later. Probably.
It was amazing.
Thank you for
doing a great job.
Of course. Well, this is the journalism class, journalism law class, signing off, and I will see you guys 9:30 on Tuesday.
I guess we could. Go behind you.
You guys did something.
Thank you. It was really fun.
So proud of you.
Scary.
talk about the rise and fall of a video empire. We're going to have poetry readings from some of our creative writing students. And last for this hour, we will have applied history students. You see some food over here. These are resurrected recipes from history that they've researched and looked up and tried to recreate. If you haven't tried it, I've been to a couple of their events, and there's going to be some good stuff there. So after you're done here, be sure to head over to Matt's Cafe. We have International Music and Poetry Hour. I watched the sound check earlier this week, and we have... Oh, no, the mic died. All right, I'll throw my voice. So we've got some excellent performers coming at 12:30, Matt's Cafe. Go check it out. Beautiful singers, good poetry. Head over there at 12:30 to 1:45. Then at 2:30 to 3:15, we'll be back here. We're going to have a one-act play. We're going to have improv performances, and we're going to have an interactive erase your poetry activity with the pen and the page. It's going to be really cool. Participate in that. Head over to the Comm Center at 3:30. We're going to have a virtual reality experience, and we're also going to have some capstone presentations by some of our seniors in interactive media and web design. Lots of good stuff everywhere. Then come back here at 5. We're going to have a closing reception. We're going to have a guest speaker, Dan Signor. He's a really talented graphic designer. He's going to be talking about collaboration in the humanities and using creativity in your workspace and professionalism. We'll also have a reception with refreshments and food. So enjoy the day. I'm going to turn this over to Professor Anisha Moorhead. She's going to give you a little info about the assignment here. And then Sean and Steve are going to have their presentation. So,
is it the lectern mic works? Good morning or good afternoon. We're getting to afternoon, right? Morning, it's still morning. My name is Professor Anisha Moorhead, and I teach, is this, I think, it's that? Okay, thanks. So my name is Professor Anisha Moorhead, and I teach in the communications department here at Belleville. And this semester I'm teaching media management. And the course deals with the management and leadership of the media. In the class we deal a lot with what is current in culture and what is going on with the media and how images are being portrayed in the media to the greater public, but also to internal audiences. As a part of my team's final project, they had to look at a media dilemma in society and really figure out a solution. So they looked at the problem, they looked at the background, they're coming up with solutions, and then of course making recommendations based upon the research that they find out in the world. So it's part research project, part discovery project, and part fun, right? So along the way we've had really great projects. So one of the ones that's going to present today is Blockbuster. But one of our teams is doing ESPN, the other one's doing social media and Facebook, and then we have a couple of people who are doing research papers on Netflix and Nipsey Hussle, and so it's been very, very, very interesting and fun class. And my students are in that class. Can you just wave your hands so that people can see it? Yeah. And so, again, today our presentation is just going to be from one of our groups. And that is Hami, Nicholas, Sean, and Steven, and they're going to be talking about the rise and the fall of an empire of Blockbuster video. So how many of you guys remember video? Yeah, right. So they're going to talk to you a little bit through it and then also have a discussion. So I thank you so much, and without further ado, Sean and Steven are going to be presenting on behalf of the group. Thank you.
How's everybody doing today? All right, so Blockbuster started out really, really strong, and in the 90s was absolutely huge. It still continued pretty strong in the early 2000s, and then, well, it ran into some troubles, and that's what we're going to end up going over today. So in 1985, David Cook opened the very first Blockbuster in Dallas, Texas. It had, well, most stores had very limited inventory when it came to videos. It had about 8,000 tapes, which was actually quite extensive at the time. And not to mention, they also had a computerized checkout process, which was pretty advanced at the time. The one store became so successful that he actually opened up 3 more within the next year. Then in '87, Cook sells part of it to the company to Wayne Husengay, who's the founder of Waste Management. In case you guys are wondering, yes, it is the exact same Waste Management. Later that same year, Cook left the company, and Husengay took over and moved the headquarters over to Fort Lauderdale. And when that happened, that's when they went on the attack, and that's when they decided they were going to go ahead and expand their business, and they went really hard with it. It was to buy out and expand as much as they could. And they went to all these small little chains, and they bought out as many of them, including Errol's Video Club and all these other small town video stores. They did everything they could to just buy out their business and then just spread. They did pretty much the same kind of model that Ray Kroc did when it came to spreading McDonald's. In 1998, they led the video rental industry with over 400 locations, and then Nintendo actually lost a lawsuit against Blockbuster. What ended up happening was they were very unhappy that they were allowed to rent their games out. And basically, in court, they found there was nothing that they could actually do, except what Blockbuster was doing is, because they only had one manual for the games, is they would photocopy it, and that was considered illegal. So what they would do, that was what they were told in court, so they just started like making handwritten or printed versions that they just typed out, so that way they weren't breaking the law. So now we're getting to, this is where, you know, from there up into the 90s was when they started going international, they started getting really big, they went outside of the country, but this is when things started getting really bad and complicated for Blockbuster at the same time. So at the same time, in the early 2000s, they got in competition with Netflix, and Blockbuster started losing a lot of customers. If you're wondering why, if you take a look at this, this is actually a screenshot from Netflix's website. And one of the things that stands out to a lot of people is there's no due dates and no late fees, which was what kicked a lot of people in the butt when it came to, you know, their biggest problem with Blockbuster. So what they ended up doing was they announced that they were going to start doing the same and ended late fees, which sounded great for all the customers. However, what ended up happening is they lost $57 million in the second quarter, and their shares dropped 11% as soon as that happened, because the majority of their profits came from those late fees. Now, the benefits for a lot of customers with this, while they thought that they could actually hold on to it as long as they wanted, they could actually hold it up, the video or the game up to a week after the due date. Unfortunately, on the 8th day, the customer was charged the full price of the video. Their mentality was, well, if you kept the video or the game for this long, you obviously like it so much that you must want to keep it. So you automatically got charged the full price, which caused a massive backlash of customers. Not to mention that if you decided on the 8th day you did not want to purchase the video, you were instead charged with a $1.25 restocking fee, which I don't know about you guys, but that seems like it's pretty cleverly disguised as a late fee. And which actually became a problem in itself, because in 2005, Blockbuster had to pay, agreed to pay $630,000 to customers in over 47 states for deceiving customers with their no late fees campaign. So, and it ended up turning the whole thing completely around. Now, also they decided to do a movie by mail program, just like how Netflix does it. They had the Total Access Premium plan, which customers could have 3 movies out at a time and could rent more once they returned them all, and you could turn them by mail just like Netflix, or you could just stop by your local store and turn them in. The only thing that they really had up on Netflix at the time is you could also do games. However, at the same time, they started the game by mail service about 4 years after GameFly started theirs. Now, the prices plans were boosted from $24.99 to $34.99. And then also for their 2 at a time plan was raised from $21.99 to $29.99, which really annoyed a lot of customers. And also they did this mostly to help keep from losing money. One of the reasons that they did it was, they used for example, was one man was, after doing the math, was only paying 36 cents per DVD. And this was done because he checked out as many as he wanted and returned them within the way he was supposed to, but ended up returning 200 rentals a month. How he does it, I have no idea. I must have a lot of time on his hands. And in the third quarter of 2007, Blockbuster lost $35 million due to customers being outraged of benefits being cut from the total access plans. And needless to say, Netflix won when it came to going up against total access. But that's really when the decline started. Now, what could have saved the company? Well, I've got a couple theories about what could have actually helped. First off, is Netflix. It's right there in front of your face. In 2000, the co-founder and CEO of Netflix met with the head of Blockbuster and to work out a deal where Blockbuster was going to buy out Netflix for $50 million. However, Blockbuster turned it down. The other thing that I really think would actually help, if you guys look over here, it kind of looks like a casino, doesn't it? Looks like you got like slot machines or something going on. Over here you got a nice little restaurant, you've got a big old TV screen, and you got a big old restaurant over here. Well, what do these all have to do together? This was one of 3 locations that were opened up by Blockbuster called Blockbuster Block Party. The idea was they opened, well, let me start by saying they opened up 3 locations, one in Indianapolis, one in Albuquerque, and one in South Florida. And this opened up around 1994, and they were trying to test it out, but apparently, I guess they didn't test it out. It didn't satisfy them, I guess I should say. But the idea was that they had slides, games, fast food. They had meals for adults that even came with toys, just like a kid's meal. They had arcades, rides, a theater, laser tag, play arenas with ball pits and tunnels, all adult size. And after a certain time, kids weren't allowed to be there. It was adults only. They lowered the lights so everything glowed in the dark, and they served alcohol. Now, and they would blast techno over the speakers. I don't know about you guys, but I think definitely today that would definitely kick off. So I personally think that that's one of the biggest spots where they lost out. Also, for number 3, they also started Blockbuster Express, which was their response. It was their response to Redbox. The Express came out in 2010, which was a little late compared to Redbox. Really, with Blockbuster Express, it's only related in name only because the company, NCR, paid for the right to use the name Blockbuster. So they were kind of related, making a little bit off of it, but not a big chunk of it. And, you know, it works the same way. You just go online or find a local kiosk like at a McDonald's or a Walgreens, and you pick out your movie, head home, and bring it back. But honestly, I think the biggest problem was that Blockbuster lived in a bubble. The heads of Blockbuster had this idea that the way people consume media, the way they rent movies, they rent games is never going to change. They're always going to come to us. They're never going to want to do anything except for come to us. And they were unable to adapt to when Netflix started doing their streaming. They have their own streaming service, and basically it was so poor that you had to download the entire movie on your phone before you could watch it, which you're also using data on that, which definitely is not something that customers would prefer. Well, would this be enough? If they bought out Netflix, I think definitely they could still be alive and kicking today. With Block Party, who knows? I mean, that time space between '94 and now, I honestly couldn't tell you, but I can definitely tell you that I think now, if something like that was open, the block party, I think that would definitely kick off. But I think all that this really was is Blockbuster was stuck in their own bubble and they refused to adapt. They were like a horse in a race. They had their blinders on. They knew they stuck with what they know and they refused to go outside the box. And this was the rise and fall of Blockbuster.
Any questions?
Oh, does anybody have any questions?
Why didn't they do those block party things?
Apparently they didn't. I guess they didn't make enough. But here's the problem. The other problem I think that they had with Block Party. After doing research on it, they put their locations in places where they didn't have Blockbusters. They put their location in places where nobody knew the Blockbuster name. And so if some random guy shows up and, hey, check out my stuff, nobody's going to care. Power is in the name of your brand.
You got a hand back.
When did Blockbuster officially end?
When they officially end?
Yeah.
There's still one going. There is one last Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon, and it's pretty much a tourist attraction now. Well, actually, we got hit. Somebody mentioned the last Blockbuster Twitter handle. We're not exactly sure if it is affiliated, if it's actually people who work there. Some of the stuff that's tweeted out doesn't seem like it would be going along with what a company would want to put out. So I can't say that they are or aren't the same people. And we are currently working on trying to get an interview with Sandy Harding, who is the manager of the last Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon.
So does it look like there are titles that are not in print, that you cannot get on Netflix, that you cannot get on, whatever your video source is? Does it look like VHS? Did you guys find any of your research that it looked like VHS was going to make a comeback, or DVDs in the same way that vinyl has made a comeback in terms of music?
I haven't really looked at that. What I can tell you is that personally, I know a large amount of people that even though they still have Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Video, they still go out. They buy VHS or DVDs because if you're sitting at home and power goes out, you're stuck. You've got nothing to do. You can watch it on your little itty bitty screen of a phone, but that's going to get old after a while. So if there's, if you want to watch a series on DVD or your own movies, you've got it right there.
Can you repeat his question because we can't?
He asked, why is it that family video is still around? I think it's because I haven't delved too much into it. I'm still looking into it. I believe it has something to do with the areas that they're set up in, because you don't really see family videos everywhere. They're just in like certain areas. And I think it has to do with sort of like income with certain areas. And at the same time, they can kind of keep up by providing other services like disc cleaning. So like, where do you have to go if you have like a scratched PS4 game and you need it cleaned? Well, you can go to Family Video and they'll take care of it for you. So it's like they have an extra service outside of here's some movies that we have that they can also help provide. Not to mention they're also teaming up with Marco's Pizza, so now they're doing not only pizza, cleaning your discs, now they also have deals of, hey, if you order a pizza, you can get a free rental. Yep. Is there any other questions? No, well, thank you so much for
My advanced creative writing class would like to come up here, all of you. All right. Oh, there's the monkey. All right, thank you all for coming. I'm Professor Alexander, and this is my advanced creative writing class. And this semester we read a book of poetry called Whitehead by Terrence Hayes. Fantastic book of poetry. Highly recommend. Terrence Hayes is probably up there. My favorite poets like T.S. Eliot and myself. So, definitely read it. Whitehead has a variety of forms, and one that I believe Hayes invented himself is called, I call it the Pechakucha, but it's actually pronounced Pachakacha. And he based the poem structure off a presentation called a Pachakacha, which is a business presentation that originated in Japan, where, and I'm going to quote Hayes here, a presenter narrates or riffs on 20 images connected to a single theme for 20 seconds at a time. So Japanese business presenters would do this presentation, a PowerPoint with 20 slides. Terrence Hayes turned this into a poem form. So it's 20 stanzas. Roughly, each stanza would take about 20 seconds to read. So even the word pachakacha is an adaptation or loan word for the word picture. So it's a Japanese word, but they use picture. An American word is the root, or English word, I'm sorry. For our class, my students wrote pachakachas, which consists of 20 short stanzas, all centered around a single theme. So they all wrote their own, but we took a stanza from each one. Some people are going to read more than one stanza, and they made their images that correspond with that. So we created a pachakacha about our pachakachas, if that makes sense. So we're going to start it off. Everyone will read in the class, and enjoy.
My Pachakacha is called Remastered. The Chain. Cat's cradle of addiction with hacking, coughing up black hairballs plucked from the black lungs of my grandpa's ninth life as an alley cat. He licks his addicted fur in the 90-degree garage, awaiting his next meal. Slow Ride. Malignant consumed him from the organs out to the purple flesh, devouring the kidney, laughed at remission, and a light kidney and liver were for dessert. He lay on his Star Wars bed sheets, unscared to die. Roxanne. Give me more of the mint that tickles my lips, the sweet and warm nicotine that spools off your city tongue. Wipes, smashes, holds on to mine. Your saliva burns my throat, gasses me out, floods my head with infidelity.
I'm Shelby McGill, and my Pachakacha was 20 reasons I'm not deserving of love. Number 4, depression. My betta fish has been dead for weeks. The bamboo stalks are starting to turn brown from the decay. I can't bring myself to do anything about it.
Shell, we love you. We love you, Shelly.
I'm Miss Flores. My Pachakacha is called Things That Sound or Look Like Other Things. Gone brain. At 2 a.m., she leaves her door propped open with an Adidas tennis shoes for me. I stop by the water fountain for a drink. Sitting on the drain, like a tumor, interrupting blood flow, dingy pink gumbo, teeth marks like ventricles, food crumbs attached like neurons, spit coat like cerebrospinal fluid. I twitch the bottom with my pelvis and welcome a cold wetness. Coconut sex. You know how the eggplant emoji is a penis and the peach one is an ass? I want to spend 2 hours fighting her on why the coconut is a better vagina than the kitten one. I want to tell her about the hard outside shell and the sweetness streams inside. Look closely, even the thin, thirsty hairs are there. But really, I want to spend 2 hours breathing in her coconut oil moisturizer.
Alright, obviously I'm not Weston. I'm Jordan Mauer, and I'm reading for Weston. So this one's called Mikey You Home. Right? Click it.
No, back. Other direction.
God, here we go. I'm flying 40 over my limit. My car's shaking. One more Vyvanse, pop capsule, powder, tastes sour. Wash it down, speed within the hour. I can't knock on your door, no phone. I'm fine, 40 more. Mike Fentanyl.
I'm Katie Lacusta. My poem was called No More Heroes. This is an anonymous letter to the girl I don't know who thought it would be funny to steal my name bar from my desk, draw a stick figure falling off a cliff, then put it back. You may as well keep the alien action figure. Bullying puts you in position to hurt others the way others hurt you. That is what this poem turned into, obviously. Every line, rhyme, rhythm, repetition, alliteration, enjambment, plans and mirrors my brightly burned, bullied skin. Could you hear it? This is for the people, everyone who hurt me, believed in my mental weakness, my enfeebled white blood cells that hold this power in my hand. It will be my signature. This is for all the kids who suffered as I did, or maybe in the end it won't be. Maybe it's all just for me.
My name is Tamaki. Mine is called Tiny Bill. I woke up just to check with my phone, got any message from you. I already knew you planned to leave me. I got you a share of the vacancy where you used to be. Tell me how to cure this space.
Hi, my name's Nikki Lilies. My poem's called Signs, but Rob named it because I couldn't think of one. Bending road ahead. You love the way a dog growls with drool coming out of his mouth when his pinch collar is on a notch too tight. The way you pretend you don't know that you're breaking the ones around you, but you knew exactly what you were doing that day. You can't keep piling up your mistakes just so you can hike up them to see the view from the top. Road work ahead. Destruction is the only language you speak. It comes out of your mouth like baby teeth. You think the hard times will make your daughter stronger, but having a stepmom will teach her more people love her. But you just taught her that love walks out the front door, gets in a car and drives to comfort someone else.
My name is Erin Whitaker. My poem was Playlist of Memories. A head full of dreams. I remember building cities and whole worlds together. Barbies, G.I. Joes, Legos, and Power Rangers traveled from my room to yours to our brothers. A never-ending bridge that kept them and us connected until Mom grew tired of yelling "ow" every few seconds. All right. My poem was called Sex, 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 and Love. Way mature content. Handle, leg, thumb, toy back and forth in my inner thigh close to my glory hole. We're literally in the middle of fucking Denny's. I'm not going on a second date with you. I still don't understand how his tongue can do that. That little trick of making a knot with the cherry stem. I tried for years and I still can't do it. He even double knotted the stem one time when we were eating in Stick and Shake. Stop being such a pussy, but it hurts. It's not that bad once you stop tensing up and relax. Ow, ow, hell no, I'm done. I don't get why you're such a drama queen. I only waxed a few hairs off. Stop screaming.
I'm Alex. I did mine on wombats. Kids home. I have a pouch like a kangaroo, except mine faces towards my ass. Why would I want an ass-facing pouch? I'm constantly digging and would be tiring to clean it out. Diet release. But when I do poop, it's like a Rubik's Cube. Confusing and shaped like a cube. No wonder it takes so long. My body's building organic Legos.
They made me write one too. I did mine on Pokemon, and I called it Poke-Kucha. Charmander. It starts with a flicker, a flame-sparked tail behind our bodies, chasing us towards unknown landscapes with nothing but pens and pen. Thank you. Give them all a round of applause. Now Professor Danloff is going to take it away.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing?
Great.
Are you hungry?
Sure.
Students from my applied history class class, one of the things that we were doing was trying to figure out how to make history more tangible. Something we could touch, something we could feel, something we could hear, something that could actually go with our senses. So one of the things that we did as a project was to go back in time and see if we can recreate old-timey recipes. So over here on the table, we have a couple of the old-timey recipes that we created. Some of them date back from the 1940s, others date back even earlier than that, not back to ancient times. I can't find food that existed that old. We also had several students make podcasts. And so we have a listening station over here where you can listen to some of their podcasts where they talked about history. So if you guys want, at this point, you are allowed to stand up, come on over, and eat some grub and ask some questions about some food. And we have water if you need it.
I've already. Mine does too. It's actually this one, but.